but the ABC test. So what is the ABC test? Under the ABC test, a worker is considered an employee and not an independent contractor unless the hiring entity, Uber, DoorDash, in this case, Uber, DoorDash, any of them, Instacart, unless the hiring entity satisfies all three of the following conditions. A, the worker is free from the control and direction of the hiring entity in connection with the performance of the work, both under the contract for the performance of the work and in fact. So they can't tell you what mapping to use, how to do your work. They can't tell you that you can't use third-party software to better organize your work. They can't tell you that they can't tell you anything. They're allowed to present you with a job. And again, full transparency, it needs to show all the details, the full pay, everything. And then you take that job or you don't. If you do, they don't. That's the end of them, because that is now your client. And I know it feels weird to us, but I've spoke about this before. We know a driver in Oregon who was audited and by the State Department. And when they audited him, they said, we need a list of this is a person who only does rideshare, Lyft and Uber, but he does it full time, had done it for years. And they said, we need a list of all of your rides last year, all of your clients. And they said, well, you would go to Uber for that because I don't have all those. I mean, in reality, you would, but guess what? No, we have to be free and clear. And these are our clients. So Uber, you got to just, because if you're going to do that right there, you just didn't satisfy prong A. So therefore we're employees. States are going to start holding you to this stuff. And then there's the B prong. This is the toughest one for anybody to pass. Doesn't even matter what you do. Doesn't even matter what space of gig work we're talking about, traditional or the apps. The worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. DoorDash is a delivery company. So you can't be an independent contractor for DoorDash because their main business is delivering food. So if you deliver food, you can't do it. If you're a plumber and their plumbing breaks, they can hire you to be an independent contractor to come fix the plumbing. But if you are part of the regular course of business, you must be an employee because, and really it should make sense. If what you do is delivering food, to independent contract out all of that work, you're skirt tailing a W-2 model. Now, I am not for it. I don't want to be a W-2 worker. I love the gig economy. I hope it saves itself from this. But if it keeps pissing people off, this is what we're going to end up with. And we all know that even franchise models, none of this is going to work. So it's got to be a way figured out where it's still independent contractor, but you can't do delivery for a delivery company as an independent contractor because they should have W-2 employees doing delivery. That is the thought process there. And then the C prong is also tough. The worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature of that performed for the gig app. So if you are doing DoorDash delivery and Uber Eats delivery or Rideshare, you need to be doing delivery and Rideshare on your own. And I'm not saying like where you can say, yep, I got one private client here, I do it on my own. No, you need to have it'll depend on the state, but you need to have a certain percentage be your own customers that you're working with. Like, let's just be nice and say 20%, 30% of all the delivery work that you're doing needs to be your clients outside of these gig apps so that you're doing this trade on your own before coming in and relying on these apps. I can almost say for certain that under 1%, so we're going to be talking a fraction of a percent, have that kind of stat. So you would lose on that prong too. So now you see the problem. While we're on DoorDash, and do we have enough time? I think we have just enough time for me to get through these. But I was making a list. I would love for you guys to add to it, whatever platform you might be viewing this on, or right here, because I am catching the live chat. And I would like to see any additions, because at this point, I want everything added to this list. And if you're watching it on other platforms, please add into the comments. So I came up with some worst attributes of DoorDash. So I have the tier system. They're not in any specific order. They're all horrible. So of their worst attributes, maybe even illegal attributes. Tier system, top dasher, platinum, whatever, all needs to go. Tip stealing since 2017 nationwide. DoorDash has been caught 2017 to 2019, 2021 to 2023 is being looked at. I don't know. They're just being caught everywhere for wage abuse and wage theft. And they're admitting to it, so they don't even have to go into a court. Again, going back to that PR thing. You guys stole a bunch of tips during this time. Okay, let's just settle out of court. You don't even want to walk into the court. Usually they're going to fight things. These they don't even walk in. They're like, yeah. I mean, because they know how they stole it. It's not like they went into your pocket and stole money out of your wallet, but they had a way of trying to explain why they were doing it. So it actually was like, you're stealing tips. And they're like, we know, but here's why we were doing it. And that's just not flying with anybody. So every state should, if your state hasn't sued DoorDash yet for 2017 to 2019, it should, because those dates, every market it was in was stealing tips. In the United States, and in any state it was running in, it was stealing tips. Now, they argued before they settled out of court, before even walking in, they argued, but it was really this. What they were saying was that because they were running ads about make sure to tip the driver and all this, but they were saying that they were showing the driver the full pay up front. And to me, it's all just so, and this is why they're paying them all. This is why they don't go into court. They've got enough attorneys where if they even have a shred of a chance, they'll take it to court. But that's how funny this one is. Any state that's accusing them, they're just paying it off. Wrongful deactivations happens every day. Illegal driver metrics like on time, acceptance rate, customer rating. Nope, can't have them. They got to go. Telematics. First of all, I am very familiar with the telematics. I am very interested in telematics, but DoorDash is doing it to just sell bulk information off to insurance companies. So they're not selling John or Bill or Tina's info off directly, but they're selling zip code data off. So if an insurance company wants to know how many gigapps workers there are in this zip code and, how are they doing, they can sell that off. Now, what they're running is not true telematics. They're saying how fast you brake and how fast you accelerate. And it's done through the fitness part of the phone you have. Trace that properly. So again, real driver telematics are done through real companies. They're very expensive to run. DoorDash is running it in every city, by the way. Most of you just have it turned off. I still have mine turned on. Everybody tells me turn it off so you don't have to look at it. Why? At the end of every dash I do, I take a screenshot of it. I like to see it. And one day it will be used against them. So creative, I love this one. Creative ways of reducing driver pay. They are just masters of this. Not just DoorDash, but I am picking on DoorDash here today. Punishing customers with city fees. So these cities that have said, okay, like Seattle, like we're going to put $5 on every order that's supposed to come back to these drivers and whatnot. All it's led to is having a lot of drivers on the platform up there that can't find as many jobs. So they're sitting idle. I'm not going to say active time. I mean, I just said it, but I'm not going to refer to it that way because that is their scam way. There is no active time. Again, let's be clear on that. There is real time only. I mean, if you want to take those kind of metrics on your own, that's up to you. But DoorDash, it's not like it's up to you and you can read DoorDash's. DoorDash should not be doing that. Punishing restaurant partners. So they're paying the drivers bad. They're passing along these $5 city fees. And in some cases, they might even be padding it a little bit and adding a little bit for themselves, but making the customer pay the full fee. But now they're punishing the restaurant customers too, their partners. Price increases on menu items, cost of service. I mean, nobody's getting a true transparent breakdown from the driver. I mean, here in Colorado, we're getting there, even to the restaurant and then to the customers. They have all these bundled fees, and through the process, this is why Canada is going to sue them. You end up with, by the time you're checking out, it took you like 10 minutes to make this order or whatever and decide the restaurant you wanted. Now you just want to make the damn order, but you're realizing, holy crap, that's a lot of money. And that doesn't even show the increase on the menu item prices, where if you go into the restaurant, you're going to pay a lot less for every item than you do on these apps. These apps upcharge all of the items. I mean, they do deals with like places like McDonald's, but we've talked about this before. McDonald's is a different animal. McDonald's is like their top client. It's worldwide, and they do pars. This is why they have, sometimes you're taking a delivery and you're like, why am I picking up from the McDonald's near me and driving it 10 miles away where there's a McDonald's 1 mile away from the place I'm delivering to? Because that McDonald's 1 mile away from that customer has hit their par for the month. The McDonald's by you has not. So they're trying to make sure all the McDonald's hit the pars so they save their money, giving tiers even to the restaurants and restaurant partners they have. This dirtiness just doesn't end. The more you dig, the more you find. And it's not, they don't even have good responses to any of this anymore. I was talking about a lack of ethics, but there is no lack of ethics. Let's be honest. There is a void of ethics. There are no ethics. No ethics. Transparency, transparency, transparency. I think that we all know that that's something that just pisses all of us off because the transparency should be there. Why, like here in Colorado, now seeing it, I guess why is because now we're seeing other things that we should be upset about. But I mean, it is allowing people like who get tip baited. It has not happened to me, but I do know people it's happened to. You can't be tip baited anymore because they have to pay you the offer they show you. Hidden tips, they were a thing for a big time. Now I hear about them coming back again and people are excited. They're like, I've heard people be excited. I've heard it both ways, but I've heard a lot of people be excited. Like, well, some hidden tips are back. That's not a good thing. This is an upfront game. This is a hybrid of traditional independent contractor work. Why, if you already have all the information, put it out there, show the drivers. You shouldn't be hiding anything. You are a facilitator. You are a switch app. You are taking an offer and you're passing it to a contractor. And that's then my client. And you're supposed to be out of the picture. You're supposed to take a small fee. That's not how these work. We know that Uber is in many instances taking well over 50% of what these passengers pay. That's not okay. And then I hear a lot of you worried about base pay. And I think to myself, man, there's some really bigger things to be worried about than base pay, because I've seen people say, well, if base pay is only $2, that means at most I'm doing 2 deliveries in an hour. That means I can only make $4 from the actual company. Even to a year and a half ago, when you were happy with the platform, base pay was $3 or $4. So if you can only do 2, that's still only 8. And you're using your car. Is that really that much better? This is a tip-based business, and we either need to get those tips back in there or find a way to pay drivers who would want a W-2 job, if that's what it's going to be. But the gigapps want it always. Treat you like a W-2 employee, pay you like an independent contractor, but, not have control over you, but have control over you. And they don't want to be part of the payment, but they want you to get tips, but they really don't encourage tipping too often with the customers. There's just so much going wrong.